Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel, guys. And the thing is, like, we have thank you to all our subscribers. I know our viewership is growing, and being the self-destructive person I am, I've decided to thank you all by bringing a very unpopular topic. I'm kidding. The thing is, I genuinely believe that there are some topics which I know might not be that popular with people, and I apologize to any of you who don't like our content, But I'm very passionate about these things, and they are a bit esoteric. They may be a bit too intellectual for the taste of, I guess, most of you. But despite all that, I do believe they're very important, in my humble opinion. So please, even if you think it's excessively esoteric, give it a shot, hear me out, and then let me know your feedback. Right. So, without further ado, today I would like to talk about the modes of thinking. Right. So, we all think in life. It's our privilege as human beings. It is what has allowed the progress of human civilization. But it is, in some ways, a burden. Sharwari, being a psychologist, knows this better than anyone else. How our thoughts can, excuse me,
Yeah.
torture and indeed imprison us in some sense. So, Sharvari, have you ever considered, like, how do you get from one point to another, right? Like, human civilization, human technology is based on logic, right? Do you know the etymology of the word logic, like the word root?
Not really. I mean, I haven't read about it as such. You can enlighten me, maybe.
Right. So logic basically, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, comes from the Greek word logos, which just means mind. Right. So any thought that you have and any system that you try to construct, and indeed, whenever you try to achieve any kind of progress, right, you look out into the world and you try to ascertain the true nature of reality. Right, and this is a long tradition from Aryabhatta to Socrates to Plato to Galileo to Albert Einstein to Erwin Schrödinger to Dr. Oshime today, for example. That many different scientists have played that part. However, there are some what Dr. Jordan Peterson likes to call axiomatic presuppositions, right? So they are conceptual structures which underlie the basis of our thought, right? So we're going to talk about two of those structures today. Like there is a fundamental difference there, right? So my point is like how can you tell whether or not something is true? Like how do you try to verify a, a statement, right? Like give the floor to you. In general, I mean, this can be any statement like right. That would. So I would go on whether there is evidence supporting that statement. Right. That is how I would proceed in my thought process. Right. So you would look for like, but what would you classify as evidence, right? So let's say I wanted to ask you, Sharvari, do you believe the Earth is as an oblate sphere or round, or is it flat? Like we know it is. I'm kidding. Is it? I mean, or is it? Yeah. I definitely am not a member of the Flat Earth Society. Well, I am. Like, I'm kidding. So, I mean, there have been a lot of astrologers who have said it. There's been scientific research on it, and that's why we can confidently say that it is definitely. Right. So this is indeed one of the key that lies to scientific progress. Right. So this is known as Newtonian truth. And how do you establish a Newtonian truth? Because I mean, the reason why it's known as Newtonian truth is because modern science, in its modern version, right, is the result of Newton. In his book called Principia Mathematica, which is in Latin, he laid out the principles of physics, which laid the foundation of classical mechanics and classical physics, which is used to launch satellites in orbit today. Right? So we use Newton's formulas from 300 years ago regarding parabolic motion to launch rockets into space. This is how accurate that maths is, right? Or math, as Americans like to call it. Math. But anyway, so this is the Newtonian logic, and it is indeed quite powerful, right? Because it looks at discrete evidence, like what Newton did. He looked at the motion of rolling objects and balls, and he tried to calculate their trajectory. He did a brilliant job of elucidating the mathematics which underlay that, right? But biology, right, particularly behavioral biology, as well as the which is a different science, right? Yeah. And biology, in some sense, is different from physics because it's not mathematical. And the first biologists were like were probably Plato, and Aristotle, because they observed animals and they tried to classify them and something like that. But at that time, you wouldn't call it science because their process was not scientific. But then came the great Charles Spencer Darwin. He sailed the HMS Beagle, and he wrote the book on the origin of species, right? And in this, right, he observed the behavior of animals. He saw fossil records, right? And based on the morphological features of animals, he came to certain conclusions. And his theory of evolution is that whatever is adaptive, whatever serves you in life, whatever takes you forward, that is advantageous, and that in some sense is true, right? Now, this is the Darwinian way of looking at it. So you don't, in the Darwinian logic, you don't really try to find out if it is actually true in terms of collecting concrete evidence for it. You just try to find out, does it work? Right? And this leads to a completely different system of logic, which, by the way, I feel is nevertheless critical to human progress and which modern science tends to ignore, right? So modern science is one of the most powerful tools. It has changed the world, right? But like every system, it has some flaws, right? So what are the flaws which are at the core of modern science? That whenever you can't prove something in hard terms, you just disregard it completely. Subjective experience, you completely disregard. And this creates a significant logical lacunae in the core of scientific thought, right? Whereas Darwinian logic is more like, is it adaptive? And if it is, then we probably should have it and we should consider it as true, right? So, for example, religion, right? Like, what is, let's say you believe in God, right? What is your factual evidence in favor of God?
So, there can be two. I've had a few experiences myself. That's one. Or the second one is why I choose to believe in God is because I've seen people do it.
Okay.
So
now,
I to follow somewhere.
Right. Now, if I'm being a pretty brutal, ruthless, or call it what you want, objective scientist, I would say, okay, like if you are observing other people do something, that doesn't make it true. And second is subjective experience. As a psychologist, I don't know how well, but in science, that would never be considered. Unless it is testable, measurable, verifiable, reproducible, it won't be considered at all, right? Now, how would you achieve at an argument in favor of religion from a Darwinian perspective? Right? That argument would completely sidestep the question, is God real? Or can you prove God by whatever? Right? It would just say, okay, you say that religion is basically blind superstition, right? Name one successful society in the entire history of mankind, which as a society was atheistic. Right? Can you name one? Well, since I'm a scientist, I have to try to disprove my own null hypotheses, right? So there have been atheistic societies which are North Korea today, China, right? Is that the kind of society you want to live in? But even in these societies, when you take away the edifice of religion, a weird kind of other religion comes in. So what do I mean by that? People in North Korea think that Kim Jong-un is a literal god, that he can read their minds, so on and so forth. So everything you would think about God, they think about him. Similarly, in China, they are communist, but so they are officially not allowed to have a religion. But since I personally had friends from China when I was in Germany, and they told me, yeah, we're Buddhist, we're whatever, So similarly, people you spent a lot of time in America, right?
Yeah.
And in the liberal cities of the West Coast and East Coast, right? You often find white people who say they don't believe in Christianity and they think it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I've also heard of white people who actually follow Buddhism or other religions as well. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
So these two ideologies, would that be the correct word?
Newtonian versus Darwinian.
Yeah.
I think there are thought processes. I think there are ways of arriving at the truth. In Sanskrit they say ekam satyam vipraha bhuta vidhanti. There's one truth, but different paths to converge to that truth.
Come to that truth. I think what I understood, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the first method is it more quantitative compared to the second method? Yeah, right. I think that was my understanding of this because I am a complete layperson. I do not know anything. That's what I'm saying. But what you brought to the table was pretty interesting. I mean, we don't dive deeper into these topics. Maybe we tend to maybe focus on core science, but this was something really different.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is science as well, right? Because this is Charles Spencer Darwin, so one of the most key guys who revolutionized biology, right? And he did not know how evolution takes place. He just laid out the mechanisms, right? And then molecular biology came along and then elucidated the DNA, RNA, whatever. That actually proved it in a Newtonian way. But the first way of arriving at the truth was completely in a Darwin, in fact, what works. So this is what brought me to religion. It was not a Newtonian way, but it was rather, okay, can you show me societies which are not religious? And even like I was talking about those white people, right? So when they say that they are not religious or whatever, they come back to religion by talk about chakras and crystals and healing balls. So you can't remove this core belief, this core desire of humanity to think of something as higher than ourselves. This is just one example, right? So many times in life, right, you cannot just sit down and try to measure everything, because most things in life that we hold dear and important are not measurable and not quantifiable.
Definitely.
And this is a lesson I learned, right? Because let's say love, like, do you love me? I can't measure that, right? I have to have faith. Do my friends, family care about me? I don't know. I can't measure it. I don't know. Am I going to find peace and happiness in life? I don't know, right? But if it works, then keep it, right?
Yeah.
If you behave a certain way, it's working for you, keep it. Like, don't try to, this is especially for those overthinkers, if you're kind of autistic, slightly leaning in that direction, going there, HFA, something like this, don't analyze things to death. Don't make yourself miserable. Just there are other systems, right?
Yeah.
And since we have been brought up in Newtonian, in a system that's dominated by a Newtonian way of arriving at the truth, we have sometimes forgotten that there is another adaptive and intuitive. And indeed, it was the way of Hindu mysticism as well, right? So Vivek in Hinduism actually means wisdom. It doesn't mean intelligence, right? So in Hinduism, there's a concept of Sankhya. And Sankhya means to quantify something, right? But when we say someone is intelligent, we say is buddhiman, and buddhi is like a holistic thing. So you're wise, essentially.
Not just being intelligent, it's being wise.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it.
So yeah, I think that's it. Maybe this won't be a masala topic that people will be interested in, but I found it fascinating.
No, this is something like I like about him, is that he really loves what I see someone getting uncomfortable.
No,
So this is one thing I really like about him, is that the passion in which he speaks about science. It's something that I really admire, because to be passionate about something is very rare nowadays. Like, to talk about passion, not worrying about how many likes, views, comments it will get, but genuinely being passionate and talking about something. So I think that's a thing that we can all learn from him. I genuinely like a lot of appreciation for him.
Sure. How to tank your guys? This is how you tank your subscribers. This is how you drive people away from your YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to be bored to death. Now,
and for the majority of people who have not seen Sharang dramatic, that's him being dramatic.
Yes, exactly.
Very rare occurrence, but we got to witness it today in this video.
Perfect. Hopefully,
I will definitely put the timestamp in the comments.
Hopefully, never shall happen again.
Thank you guys, and also I want to once again thank you for all the love you've been showering. Our subscribers are going up day by day, so we are really happy. We read all of your comments, and
not anymore.
We really want to thank you for the love you have given us, and of course, in the end of this year, like all the videos that will follow, as well as the new year, we will be making a lot of new videos, new content. So do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Sharang and Sharvari. And by this, I think this is a great place to close the video. Thank you, Sharang, for enlightening us.
I plan. My goal is to educate the degenerates of you and bring you to force you to a better path by boring you to death.
And called everyone a degenerate by that. Thank you, guys.
We should hold some kind of record, right? Who has called his own subscribers degenerates?
I think you would win.